Dorothy, thank you for taking the time to chat with me. I see you've got a beautiful spot by the window here. It's so peaceful.
Oh, it is. This is my favorite place to sit, read, and just enjoy the quiet. Your simplicity is my little luxury these days.
That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about. You've mentioned that simplifying your life was one of the best decisions you ever made. Could you share how that came about?
Absolutely. You see, when I was younger, I thought the dream was a big house, the fancy car, all the trimmings. My friends and I were in this unspoken competition to keep up. I bought into it, literally. Big mortgage, big stress.
That sounds exhausting. What changed?
A realization hit me one day when I was balancing my checkbook and wondering how I'd pay for yet another upgrade. I asked myself, Dorothy, who are you trying to impress? The neighbors, your friends, yourself? It dawned on me that I didn't actually care about any of it. I sold the house, downsized to a little cottage, and traded my car for one that just worked. No bells or whistles.
Wow, that's a bold move. Were your friends surprised?
Oh, some were downright judgmental. One even said, "You'll regret it, Dorothy. You're giving up too much." But you know what? They're still working their tails off to maintain those big lifestyles. And I'm retired at 55, debt free, and happier than ever.
That's inspiring. What advice would you give someone still stuck in that cycle?
What do you really need to be happy? Because it's not the big house or the fancy vacations. It's freedom from debt, freedom to spend your time the way you want. Let go of the clutter and the expectations. Less really is more.
So, no regrets.
Not a one. Every time I sit by this window with my tea and my paper, I think, I chose this life and I love it. Simple doesn't mean boring, it means peaceful.
Thank you for sharing that, Dorothy. I think a lot of people could learn from your story.
I hope so, Alex. Life's too short to spend it chasing things that don't truly matter.
Thank you for speaking with me today, Walter. This is such a lovely spot. Feels like the perfect place for reflection.
It is. The older you get, the more you appreciate the little things like a sunny day or a warm chair by the window.
Speaking of reflection, you've mentioned something that stuck with me. Kindness trumps being right. Could you share what that means to you?
Oh, that's a big one. You see, in my younger days, I used to think that being right, winning arguments, proving my point, was everything. I'd get into heated debates, sometimes over the smallest things. And sure, I won some, but at what cost?
What do you mean by cost?
Relationships, Alex. Pride can build walls. I look back and realize how many moments I could have chosen kindness over being right. My son once told me, Dad, sometimes it's not about the facts. It's about how you make people feel. It took me years to fully grasp that.
Was there a specific moment that made it click for you?
Yes, my wife, bless her, had this way of gently pointing out my stubbornness. One evening, we argued about something silly, whether we'd taken a certain route on a road trip years ago. She just stopped mid-sentence and said, "Does it really matter?" That hit me like a ton of bricks. It wasn't about the route. It was about the journey.
And you choose peace?
Every time, and you know what? It feels better. It's not weakness. It's strength. Kindness keeps doors open.
What advice would you give to someone still stuck in the being right mindset?
I'd say ask yourself what you're really trying to achieve. If it's connection, then kindness will get you there far quicker than being right ever will. Life's too short to let pride drive a wedge between you and the people who matter.
Thank you for sharing that, Walter. It's a lesson I think we could all use.
My pleasure, Alex, and remember, the next time you're tempted to argue, choose kindness. You won't regret it.
Thanks for talking with me today, Samuel. This rocking chair looks like it has its own stories.
It does. Bought it decades ago with my wife. Back then, I didn't see its value.
but now it reminds me how life changes, whether you like it or not.
Speaking of change, you mentioned the importance of learning to let go. What does that mean to you?
Letting go is a skill, Alex, one I learned the hard way. I used to cling to everything, grudges, expectations, failures, but holding on doesn't bring strength. It holds you back.
Was there a moment that taught you this?
Losing my job at 55? I'd worked there for 25 years. It was my identity. When it ended, I felt lost. I kept replaying the past, asking why me. My wife finally said, "You can't grab the future if your hands are full of the past." That's when I started letting go.
What did letting go look like for you?
Stop asking why and focused on what's next. I began volunteering at a community garden. Working with plants taught me something simple but powerful. Growth only happens when you let go of control.
That's inspiring. Any advice for someone struggling to let go?
Ask yourself, is holding on helping or hurting? Letting go isn't forgetting, it's freeing yourself to move forward.
Thank you, Samuel. That's a lesson I won't forget.
My pleasure, Alex. Sometimes letting go is the first step to something better.
Thank you for meeting me today, Linda. It's a perfect setting to talk about something you mentioned earlier. Working smarter, not harder.
It's my pleasure, Alex. This beach is the perfect place to reflect. When I was younger, I thought success meant working long hours, sacrificing everything for a paycheck. Hard work was the ultimate goal.
But that's not the case anymore.
No, not at all. Over time, I realized that working harder doesn't always lead to the best results. I spent years chasing after every opportunity, saying yes to every task, thinking I had to do it all. It's exhausting, and it doesn't leave room for the important things.
What changed for you?
Well, I was in my 40s, working a demanding job, juggling family responsibilities, and feeling constantly drained. That's when I hit a wall. I realized I wasn't being effective, just busy. It was a turning point. I started focusing on being strategic.
What did working smarter look like for you?
I began prioritizing. Instead of spending hours on tasks that didn't matter, I focused on what really made an impact. I learned to delegate, use tools to streamline work, and take breaks. I realized that balance and planning were more important than the hours put in.
That sounds like a huge shift. Did it feel strange at first?
Yes, it was hard to let go of the idea that I had to do everything myself, but once I started trusting others and working smarter, I saw the difference. My stress levels dropped, and my work became more meaningful.
Any advice for someone still stuck in the work harder mindset?
I'd say take a step back and think about your goals. Ask yourself, what's the most efficient way to get there? You don't need to burn yourself out to succeed. Working smarter is about focusing on what truly matters.
That's valuable advice, Linda. Thank you for sharing it with me today.
You're welcome, Alex. Sometimes less is more, especially when you work smarter, not harder.
Evelyn, I've noticed how much care you give to your bonsai. It's clear you're passionate about it. You've said before that passion should always come before a paycheck. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Oh, certainly, Alex. When I was younger, I had the typical career track in mind. Get a good job, earn a steady income, climb the ladder. I thought I was doing everything right, but somewhere along the way, I realized that I wasn't happy. I was doing work for the paycheck, not because I loved it. Passion was something I left behind in the rush to make a living.
So, when did you come to that realization? Was it something that happened gradually?
It wasn't like one day I woke up and had an epiphany, but over the years I started to feel more and more disconnected. I was working hard, yes, but there was no joy in it. Then I'd come home after a long day and I'd spend hours in my garden tending to plants. That's where I felt alive. I realized that the fulfillment I was missing was right there, in the quiet act of nurturing something I loved.
That's such a big leap. How did you manage to transition away from something stable, like a job, to following your passion?
It was scary, Alex, but I knew that living a life without passion wasn't living at all. I started small, just spending more time in the garden, reading books about plants, learning everything I could. Slowly, I began to work part-time at a local nursery, volunteering in community gardens, and even giving some gardening advice to friends. I didn't need a huge paycheck. I needed to feel fulfilled. And that's what I got.
So, you weren't afraid to leave the security of a steady income?
I was at first, but here's the thing, Alex. Once you start doing something you love, the security of a paycheck doesn't seem as important anymore. Of course, we all need enough to survive. But the joy I found in gardening, in working with my hands and seeing something grow from nothing, well, that's worth more than any paycheck could offer.
That's an inspiring outlook. You've obviously found a lot of satisfaction in following your passion. How has it changed your relationship with money?
Money became less of a focus. It's important, sure, but I no longer let it drive my decisions. When I started focusing on doing what I loved, I realized that true wealth isn't about how much you make, but how content you are with what you have. I don't need the biggest house or the most expensive things. I just need a life that feels rich with purpose.
Do you think younger generations could learn from your experience? The pressure to constantly chase after promotions, to climb the career ladder, seems overwhelming these days.
Absolutely, I see it all the time. People are so focused on achieving, getting the perfect job, the perfect salary, the perfect life on paper. But what happens when you reach the top and still don't feel fulfilled? Passion is what fills that gap. It's not about the things you accumulate. It's about the things that make your soul feel at peace. When you start doing what you love, you find out just how much more fulfilling life can be.
It's a powerful message, Evelyn. So, you'd say your advice is to follow what makes you happy rather than just chasing a paycheck.
That's right. Do what you love, and the rest will follow. Don't wait until you're at the end of your life wishing you spent more time doing what made your heart sing. Start now, even if it's just a small step. The rewards are greater than you could ever imagine.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. Your story is truly inspiring. It's a reminder that when we follow our passions, we're not just living, we're thriving.
You're welcome, Alex. Life's too short to wait for the perfect moment. The moment is now.